Hey, this is Danny Eny with Firepole Marketing, and you're listening to Stephanie O'Brien's Moved by Purpose podcast.
I think in a perfect world, we should all be doing things that we love, that we're passionate about, that pay us well and satisfy us intrinsically and extrinsically. That's the perfect world.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
You are listening to the Moved by Purpose podcast, episode number 49. And today's guest, I am excited to have on the show. His name is Peter Winick, and he has over 20 years of experience and has worked with a variety of thought leaders. He expertly leverages that along with his experience with such clients as IBM, Kraft, Microsoft, Avon, Hyatt, and more. In addition, he has built and managed several consulting and professional development organizations. Peter is an information junkie and an avid reader of business books. He believes that taking great content and creating a platform to best support it takes a combination of art, science, logic, focus, passion, and creativity. Welcome to the show, Peter. It is an honor to have you on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So the first question I ask the guests, I seek to find a background. Like, what is your work history? I love these stories to hear the wide variety of working history. And what led you to start Thought Leadership Leverage?
Yeah, so work history is varied. I would say the common denominator is always entrepreneurial and always sort of creating what I believed were solutions to problems that I saw in a marketplace. So entrepreneurial throughout sort of my teens and such. Started my first business very shortly after college, a couple months after. Did a roll-up there, sold that, etc. With regards to Thought Leadership Leverage, it's really kind of interesting in that given that I've been entrepreneurial since my early 20s or earlier, I've always also been a content junkie. And some of that's out of necessity, right? So it's easier to, or cheaper to, or more cost-effective to buy a book for $15 or a magazine for $5 than it is to hire a consultant when you don't have the funds to do that early on. So I never saw really that side of my personality, my life as a business. I was always just reading magazines, blogs, business articles, checking things out, lots and lots of nonfiction business books, etc. And then about a dozen years or so ago, the two combined, my sort of entrepreneurial path and sort of my passion and love for content sort of merged, and I started working with someone that launched a book that became incredibly successful. And from there, we launched a speaking business and a training company and all these other things. And what I learned from that experience is that there is a need in the marketplace for people that create content, authors, thought leaders, speakers, etc., to have some help and for someone to help them holistically, not just look at sort of one piece of their world. So typically it's been a book agent might get them a book deal and a speaking agent might get them a speech, but nobody was looking at sort of the whole sort of ecosystem of what it takes to be an author, thought leader, content producer. That's why I Thought Leadership Leverage about 10 years ago or so.
Amazing. I can definitely see how there is a need or a gap. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship, where you just see a need or a problem and then you create a solution to that problem. And that's
an important
just
point is that I've always looked at the market and asked what they need. And I think a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is I've got something that's awesome, therefore the world wants it. And that's a really big gap. And I think if you have your nose and your ears to the market and go, so nobody's doing this. Lots of people are doing this. People are asking for that. There might be an opportunity here and to test that in a cost-effective sort of lean way.
Could you give an example of how to do that? I think because people hear that a lot, but they might not even know, like, how do you do that in a cost-effective way? You hear about testing your market, but people might not even understand what's involved, or they think that you need big dollars to properly test. Could you go into that?
So there's two things. I think one problem that I see is people get into ready, aim, 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 aim mode, and they forget to fire. I'm more ready, fire, aim. And as long as I'm firing in such a way that isn't going to bankrupt me, then it's okay. I think the way you test the market is not spend 6 months on a logo and 2 years on a website and, get everything just perfect and I'm almost ready to whatever, is you do the scary stuff and you go out into the market and say, hey, I'm Peter. Here's what I got. Would you like to buy some of that? And that's a really scary being out there sort of on the ledge moment. A lot of people tell you, absolutely not. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You might want to listen to that. If people say, tell me more, or that's interesting, or I don't understand, you're starting to engage them. But the greatest laboratory we have in the universe is the market. And it doesn't really matter what you think. It doesn't matter what your friends think. It doesn't matter what your family thinks. If you've got an idea, to get to the market as quickly as you can and test it.
And something as simple as asking is big. Another mistake, I definitely see that, like where they think something is awesome without necessarily testing it. And then there's people that along the lines, like they come up with this idea, they think it's brilliant and work really hard and really long and invest some money in it. And then they market it.
Right.
And it's a flop.
Well, and guess what? I mean, there's also a research phase to say, I think you can't live in a bubble. And you have to assume that even though you have a great idea, that there's lots of other smart people out there and somebody else is doing it. And they may or may not be, but I think you need to do some research and find out what is close to that, what are comparables. And you have to get it down to the level of going, where in your client's budget, whether that's a consumer client or a B2B or whatever, is what you're asking for coming from? What's the comparable, or what's the thing that you're a new improved version of?
So with someone that has an idea and they want to have something that they're passionate about, but also that's economical. And I've heard many mixed reviews or mixed takes on it's not so much about what you're passionate about, it's what the market will buy. But then there's also potential things that can lead to burnout if you're not passionate about it. Have you had any experience where someone has a really successful business but has no passion about it? Have you kind of seen that?
I think in a perfect world, we should all be doing things that we love, that we're passionate about, that pay us well and satisfy us intrinsically and extrinsically. That's the perfect world, right? I think I'm blessed that I actually love what I do, and I love the work that we do with our clients, and I have fun, and it doesn't mean every day is Disney World, but I love what I do, and I can't imagine being in the place where I see so many people at my level go, oh God, tomorrow's Monday, I've got to go to work. I'm like, man, that's depressing, right? That's really, that's a bummer that you feel that way. So I think in a perfect world, yes, it would be great to have both. What I would also say to that is if you have to choose between passion and what the market wants, don't be stubborn and choose the passion. Right? Because maybe you're passionate about glow-in-the-dark hula hoops and the market doesn't care. You could be passionately broke.
Yes.
And then the other thing I would say is there are plenty of people that I see out there that have, quote, successful businesses, if we use the sort of standard business metrics, profitable, et cetera, but really are just not passionate about. I've had clients got out of other businesses and said, listen, I was incredibly successful selling insurance or whatever, or, a great plumbing company. Most people probably aren't incredibly passionate about, and they find their places to get those needs satisfied elsewhere in their life.
Before we continue, let's stop for this quick break. Want to know the secret behind the people that have built successful 6-figure and 7-figure businesses? I know I sure was wondering what that was. Of all the entrepreneurs I have interviewed, all of them have invested in their training and in the success of other people. So what is the fastest way to grow your business? You probably guessed it right if you've been paying any attention to any of the leading experts out there, and that is by joining a mastermind group. The best mastermind groups require a financial investment. This ensures the commitment of every member in the group. The free ones just do not have the commitment from the members. They have inconsistent attendance, which ends up being a waste of everyone's time. If you want to rapidly grow your business, it just won't happen if you do not invest any money. I hate to break it to you, but the businesses that grow the fastest are due to the fact that people have invested in their own personal and business development. They have invested in a mastermind group, hired coaches, paid for trainings, marketing, a supportive team to delegate and offload the responsibilities. It is a fact that you cannot build your business alone. Without the feedback, input, and idea sharing or brainstorming of other business-minded people, you will not see the success you are hoping to see anytime soon. Who is looking at your sales copy, your website, marketing flyers? If it's a friend or a family member, do they own their own businesses? Who is helping you process through and solidify networking strategies and rocking that sales process? What about the pricing on your packages? I cover all of these business boosting techniques and strategies in my mastermind group. So join my mastermind group to learn all the strategies, secrets, resources, and share ideas that will get you transitioned out of your day job in a year. This group is for people who are already clear on their business idea and are hustling to make things happen. This group will just speed up the success and boost your profits. At a bargain price of $250 a month, you will not find any other mastermind group out there like this that has the amount of training and coaching made available to you. Think you can't afford that? Trust me, you really cannot afford not to. Home study programs, books, and consuming free podcasts and blogs will only get you so far. Building your business with a group of committed members is the missing key to your business success. Don't delay. Register today and get a $50 off per month bonus. Yeah. Okay, so passion. Some people are multi-passionate.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that I find myself running into. What can you say that I missed that?
Polyamorous. They're the Mormons of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Sorry to my Mormon friends out there, whatever.
Yeah. Now, I find that passion can be developed, and like the more risk you take or the more you are willing to stretch out of your comfort zone, the more you're willing to learn and do, the more passions you actually can just develop. Now, to someone that's in startup, that could also be a danger zone, and that's one I have found myself falling into a couple times, where you get an idea and you have a focus, but then as your skill set develops and you get even more skilled at what you do, you have other passions that come along the way. And they can start kind of doing that. They do the ready, fire, aim, or the fire, ready, whatever. They fire all over the place, but they never really aim.
Yeah. So I think that in startup mode, and when you're trying to launch something and really figure out if there's a there, multi-passion is really just a nice way to say there's a total lack of focus and potentially ADD, and the business can't afford that. So it's great to have lots of passions, but you can't launch 7 different unrelated businesses to unrelated target markets that have different buying patterns and all at once. You will fail at all of them. So you need to be focused, and you need to be able to prioritize and say, you know what, I need to spend a couple months really working the kinks out on this thing. And I know myself enough to know that the shiny thing is going to come across my desk, and I'm going to be attracted to that. And you've got to have the discipline to go, that's a great idea. Now's not the right time. And if you can't do that, you're going to fail. You're just going to dilute the effort, etc. The other thing I would say relative to multi-passionate is some people are not necessarily passionate about their business or their industry. Maybe it's a mundane sort of plumbing business or manufacturing or whatever, but they do become passionate about different functional areas in the business. Hey, it's really cool. I love marketing, or I love client relationships, or I love social media. And that's sort of an interesting way to back into becoming more passionate about the business, is finding the roles in the business that really jazz you, that intrigue you, that you're good at, that are, play to your strengths and all those kind of things.
Yes, that's very, very helpful. Now, for somebody that is trying to get that focus where they thought, I run into this a lot, they thought they were focused, but they're still casting way too wide of a net and trying to get, it's too broad. Do you have any advice with how to narrow it down? Because there's a fear there that they think they're going to be missing out if they niche down or narrow down.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I do on the front end of my engagements with my clients is make sure that we're laser focused. So my clients are all authors, thought leaders, speakers, etc. And one of the questions I ask them early on is, who do you think your content applies to the most? Who's going to be most impacted by it? Who's this really going to resonate with? And when I hear things like, oh man, this is for everybody, that's a nightmare because you can't be all things to all people. So I think the reality is we live in the age of the long tail, and go to your television set today versus 15 years ago, and you have more than 7 options on your television. There's hundreds, right? Go to the internet, and it's millions. So I think that's fantastic because you can find niche markets and start your hypotheses and testing against niche markets. And niche doesn't mean there's only 5 people in the world that meet that need, right? Somebody else has probably already aggregated them in terms of content that they're connected to or things that they're watching or blogs that they're reading. And I would start with niches and build out instead of going, wow, every mom needs this. No, every mom is way too huge to need this, but maybe new single moms in the Southwest that are, 35 and over that have more than 2 kids. At least we're narrowing there, or moms with an education level of above X. Anytime it's so broad, I'm like, you're not going to compete against a Coke, a Pepsi, a Procter & Gamble that are attacking that market. There's no way you're going to win against that.
Right. I love that. Start with niches and build out.
Yeah.
That is very, very valuable because then it helps kind of comfort someone who thinks they're missing out. Or for me, when I started off, I would see all these people and it looked like they were covering all the ground I wanted to cover, but they didn't start there. They developed up to there.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people mimic the leaders and think they can do what those people took 10, 20 years to build. Right out the gate.
Well, how come they're doing so well? Well, they've already done a lot of the hard work and they have a database or a client base or a following that's waiting for them to produce the next thing. When you're starting, you have nothing, right? You have an idea.
Yes.
Trying to see if that idea for a service, a product, a business, or whatever has legs, and test against niches because you can fail and it's a small failure as opposed to a catastrophic failure that you can't come back from.
Right. Well, Peter, I have valued this time and your expertise, and I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share with me and my audience your experiences, and I learned a lot from you and appreciate that so much.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Now, where can we connect with you?
So you can go to my site, which is thoughtleadershipleverage.com.
Okay.
Or you can shoot me an email at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com.
Awesome. And I will make sure to put those in the show notes and on my website.
Fantastic.
And thank you again, Peter.
You need to be focused and you need to be able to prioritize and say, I need to spend a couple months really working the kinks out on this thing. And I know myself enough to know that the shiny thing is going to come across my desk and I'm going to be attracted to that. And you've got to have the discipline to go, that's a great idea. Now's not the right time. And if you can't do that, you're going to fail.
So there you have it. That was Peter Winick with Thought Leadership Leverage. He is a wealth of information and has wonderful expertise to share. I encourage you to check him out to see what he's about, see the services he offers, see how he could help you, especially if you're an author or consultant, speaker. He definitely has services to really help you get focused and really make things happen. So again, that's Thought Leadership leverage.com, and the link is over at the show notes. As always, if you liked this episode, come on over to movedbypurpose.net. Leave a comment. Tell me what your thoughts are. Did you learn something new? What was your favorite takeaway from this interview? And if you have not done so already, make sure that you subscribe, rate, and write a review in iTunes or on Stitcher. This helps me get found by more people. Spread the word. Share this episode with someone you think will benefit. And I'll talk to you all next week.